5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our emergency virtual school board meeting today, November 23rd, 2020. I would like to thank the superintendent and his staff for providing us with an update today. I would also like to thank my fellow board members for coming together on such short notice for an important issue. Regarding this virtual emergency school board meeting, I would like to share that this meeting was added so the superintendent could provide the board with time-sensitive information and possible recommendations regarding our metrics. At our November 16th meeting, this board expressed its willingness to meet as needed to ensure there would not be a delay in responding to the changing situation. We asked Dr. Cotton to add additional meetings as needed. To that end, our attorney advised us on the procedure for adding meetings beyond our standard board meeting calendar. We are following a flexible procedure provided by law in situations such as this, where there has been a declaration of an emergency, as in Governor Notham's Executive Order number 51 in March of 2020. Using this statutory procedure, we have provided proper notice of this meeting as an emergency school board meeting. We are meeting via Zoom to pull together our board in the most efficient manner. Consistent with statutory meeting requirements, our agenda focuses on just one topic: the immediate needs facing our division from the COVID-19 pandemic, and does not include hearing of citizens. To those of you watching on television, we are glad you could join us in that manner. I encourage any citizens, staff, or students to contact us directly if you wish to share any comments regarding this afternoon's meeting. My final comment is that there may be a need in the future to hold additional emergency meetings. They will be handled in the same manner as today. So if you see an emergency meeting in the future, it may mean that the school board is closely following the COVID-19 developments and does not necessarily mean a recommendation regarding a school building closure. Our next regular school board meeting is December the 14th, 2020. Thank you. Dr. Infantino, would you please do roll call?
Mr. Boone.
Here.
Dr. King.
Here.
Mr. Mercer.
Here.
Mr. Murphy.
Here.
Mrs. New Craig.
Here.
Mrs. Swigert.
Here.
Mr. Woods.
Here.
Vice Chair Leary.
Here.
Chair Prophet.
Here. Thank you. We will now move with the information agenda to Dr. Cotton to review the recent COVID metrics and data. Dr. Cotton.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the board for meeting on short notice this week. As I mentioned at our last regular meeting, I've been watching the metrics for our area closely, and I'm sure we all have been watching these very closely, and I'm concerned about the rise of cases in our area. For tonight's discussion, I've asked my team to pull together a quick overview of the metrics for our region and our city that have been reported in the last week. But before we dive into the details this evening, I'd like to remind everyone that our decision-making process is based on the full picture of trends in the regional as well as Chesapeake metrics, as well as the number of positive cases being reported by students and staff in our schools. Early on, we stated the possibility of having to shift a specific school to temporarily online if an outbreak occurred at that location, noting that different schools could be at different points along the on-campus continuum at any given time. In addition, we must continuously analyze the key mitigation strategies we have in place and make sure they're effective and sustainable in preventing epidemiological spread in our schools. For this, we look at the number of reported cases in each of our schools on a daily basis, work with the health department to support contact tracing to determine any epidemiological links, and monitor the number of staff who are not able to report to work due to quarantining. I recently met with Dr. Welch and Jennifer Hahn the Chesapeake Health Department school epidemiologist. And by the way, they're joining us for the meeting as a resource, and we appreciate them being here on standby. And they have given us an A+ on this third factor, which is our mitigation strategies, indicating that our responsive health and safety plan is indeed working in preventing spread within our schools. But again, we want to look at all three factors combined. So let's take a closer look at that now. I also want to note that Trudy Gelderks is here, our Supervisor of Health Services, and we would not be successful without her assistance and the assistance of our nurses in each of our schools. And Trudy is on as well to help us answer any questions if we need to have her expertise as well. Here's a look at the numbers for the Eastern region. These figures were pulled this morning at 11 a.m., so it should be the most up-to-date information available. As a reminder, a link to these data is located on our website, so the public can track this information in real time as it is updated on the Virginia Department of Health's website. As it stands, the burden of the disease in the Eastern region is currently considered at the high level for case incidence and the moderate level for test positivity. On this slide, we see a quick look at the burden of the disease in the city of Chesapeake. Again, these numbers were pulled from the Virginia Department of Health School Metrics dashboard this morning at 11 a.m., so they are the most current numbers available to us. Presently, it appears our city is considered in the highest risk for both case incidence and test positivity. The CDC recommends these two core measures be considered along with our district's ability to implement key mitigation measures. It's important to point out that this is the third important piece, as Dr. Welch and I talk about quite a bit. This is such an important part of our decision-making process. And the key mitigation strategies that must be in place in our schools are consistent and correct use of masks, social distancing to the extent possible, hand hygiene and respiratory etiquette, cleaning and disinfection, and finally, contact tracing in collaboration with the local health department. And one of the benefits schools have over other locations in our community is their ability to enforce mitigation measures, creating a more controlled environment. We'd like to thank all of our employees for their diligence and vigilance in ensuring that everyone on our campuses adheres to these safety measures. Again, I will give another thank you to our nurses under the guidance of Trudy Gelderks, making sure that all of this is done with fidelity and ensuring contact tracing within our schools. Now, I want to share another perspective of where we are. On this particular slide is a screenshot taken today of the Eastern Region metrics. And I want us to focus for a moment on the historical data presented in the line graph. Back in late July, we met to discuss where our schools would begin on the on-campus continuum for the fall. At that time, we were focusing our attention on mainly the Eastern region because we knew that many of our employees came to us from our sister cities and our students participate in activities across the region. So we felt it was important to consider the presence of the disease in our region as a whole. I've asked my team to mark where we were on the line graph at the time and where we are now. For context, this area on the line graph marked in red is where we were at the end of July. Where we are now is marked in green. Again, I just wanted to share this view for context because we've heard from some members of our community that are concerned about keeping our schools open with the number of cases in our area on the rise. And I think we need to consider all sources of information before we make any decisions. You can see from this depiction of the data that we aren't where we were this summer, but our numbers are increasing. And to compare apples to apples, the Virginia Department of Health now provides this same line graph and data presentation for each locality, which allows for a clear comparison. We've updated our website to include a link to this dashboard as well. Here is a screenshot of this information for the city of Chesapeake, taken just this morning. And again, we've added some context to the line graph. The area on the line graph marked red is where we were at the end of July. Where we are now is marked in green. A similar picture to our region, it seems we are not where we were this summer, but recently we have seen a sharp increase in the numbers for our locality. Now, as we explained at our last meeting, the epidemiologic evidence suggests that transmission of the disease is not occurring in our schools. Again, the evidence supports that this transmission of the disease is not occurring in our schools, but is instead the result of community spread. When evaluating the current situation, school-based data cannot be ignored. If we are to shift our focus inward on the presence of the disease on our school campuses, then I think we need to provide that level of information to the public as well, so that we're all on the same page. I have discussed this change with Dr. Welch and her team at the Chesapeake Health Department, and they are in agreement with this shift. Now that we have students on campus in all of our schools, the total number of individuals in any given location is large enough such that the concern of possible identification is less likely. So I've asked my team to develop a new data dashboard that will shift the focus from the presence of the disease in our community, both on and off campus, and provide more details about our schools. By presenting this additional information, we can alleviate some of the concerns expressed by our school community who've been asking for increased transparency. Here you will see a snapshot of our most current new case data for the last week that will be posted on our website tomorrow. With your support, this will be the final report that we post in this format or this fashion. And beginning tomorrow, we will post a new COVID-19 data dashboard that includes a breakdown of any newly reported positive test results by school or facility. I want to go ahead and take a look and show you what our new data dashboard will look like with your approval. We're going to actually click on the link, hopefully, and pull that up. I'll go ahead and set this up. Once we post this dashboard, there you go. It can be accessed by selecting the CPS COVID-19 dashboard button that we were just looking at on the previous slide, located on our metrics and case data webpage. And it presents a closer look at the presence of cases we are seeing on our school campuses. On the left-hand side, you'll see a table that includes 4 columns. The first column includes a complete list of our schools and support buildings. The next column specifies the instructional model in place for that location, whether it be traditional or 5 days on campus, blended, 2 days on campus per week, or online, which reflects a temporary online status should that model be necessary at any given time. The third column includes the total number of newly reported positive test results received that day. It is important to note that this number reflects any self-reported test results and any that are reported to us by the Chesapeake Health Department. We want to move toward on-campus students and on-campus employees only, just reporting those who are on campus because that's the most important metric for us to follow moving forward. This will give us a clear picture of whether we have an issue within a particular building. Finally, in the last column, you'll see an important figure. This is the total number of newly reported cases for each location over the last 14 calendar days, 2 weeks worth of data, which will provide our community with an overview of the current presence of disease, if any, in our schools and support buildings. And of course, we're kind of scrolling up and down so that you can get a sense of what we're looking at. You will notice that several of the schools have 0 cases. You'll also notice that some of the schools have 1 or 2 over the last couple of weeks, but it does provide a more accurate picture of what's occurring in our schools. You'll also notice that it includes all schools, centers, and support buildings. In addition, on the right-hand side, you can see a list of important terms, including the definition of a school epilink. That is when the COVID infection occurred in a school setting. According to the Virginia Department of Health, if 2 or more cases occur in one location, and these cases share an epilink or epidemiological link, situation is then labeled an outbreak. You can see the total number of outbreaks in progress in the blue box at the bottom right-hand side of the screen, and a link to the Virginia Department of Health School Outbreak Dashboard that tracks all current and closed outbreaks across the state. Our goal is to update this information each business day by 4 p.m. Reports of positive test results received on weekends will be entered the next business day. Now, the data you see here is live, meaning it reflects the current numbers of positive test results in our schools as of today. Using this report, you can see the presence of the disease is not concentrated in any one building or area, but instead is somewhat evenly distributed across the district. You can also see that at this point in time, there are no outbreaks in progress in our schools or support buildings, meaning there are no school epilinks at this time, and that's why that 0 number is listed there at the bottom right of the screen. Based on this information, coupled with the overview of where we are with our local and regional metrics, I am recommending that we stay the course and keep our schools operating on the instructional model that is currently in place in each building. For elementary option 1 students, that is the traditional model, 5 days per week. For secondary option 1 students, that is the blended model. However, I recommend that we shift our focus toward individual schools when making decisions about where they operate on the on-campus continuum, which makes sense if we see a sudden increase in cases or an outbreak in a particular school or location. We can address that at the school level versus across the entire district and making a decision for all schools. So what I'm presenting to you is I'm recommending that we look at individual schools moving forward. So let me present another scenario where this option could be particularly effective. If resources in one building are not sufficient to meet the needs of its on-campus learners, then that particular school could shift its instructional model for a period of time. For example, it's possible that we could have pockets of high community spread in the district that would impact a particular school's ability to run efficiently, such as when staff members have been instructed to quarantine due to their close contact with a positive case off campus. While not reflected in the school totals, it still represents an issue that needs to be addressed. With numbers in the community on the rise, this scenario becomes more probable. But there's no reason why an issue in one particular school location should cause the district to shift as a whole. If we apply the on-campus continuum to individual schools, we would be responding to the needs of that particular school community. So I'm asking the board to allow me the flexibility to move individual schools along the on-campus continuum as needed without requiring board action for each instance. And of course, this would be in collaboration with our health services staff and our school division, as well as the local health department. I realize that this is a subtle shift from what we were thinking back in July, but in working closely with the Chesapeake Health Department and the School Health Advisory Board over the last few months, we have learned a great deal about the virus. Focusing only on community spread in our area does not appear to be the best method to use for our decision-making for the entire district. Instead, based on what we've learned, using school-based data related to the presence of the disease and other school-based needs to drive our decisions may be the best course forward. As a result, we would have 1 or 2 schools that may need to shift based on the numbers, and we can do that without interrupting the on-campus learning for students at the other end of the city or in other schools across the city. And finally, I'd like to share the latest report from the School Health Advisory Board and ask for the community for some help. It's true when we say we are in this together. We need every member of our school community to practice key mitigation strategies to help stop the spread of the disease. This is something that was emphasized in the latest SHAB recommendations, where they noted a lack of school-based transmission. They continue to feel it's important for our schools to remain open. Our mitigation strategies that are in place are effective. And then, of course, in order for us to stay open, it's important to emphasize the importance of everyone working together to help keep our schools open. A lot of what we're seeing is happening in our community, not happening in our schools. And of course, we need the community's help and support to keep our students in school. It's vital that our school community comes together for the good of our students and our community. And of course, that's what the SHAB group called shrink your bubble, was the expression they used. So to sum things up this evening, I'm proposing 3 recommendations for the board to consider. First, to increase the level of information we are sharing with the public by posting the new COVID-19 data dashboard that provides data by school that we just shared with you a few minutes ago. Next, to stay the course with our on-campus continuum for option 1 students at the district level. And finally, to apply the on-campus continuum to individual schools rather than to the district as a whole, allowing me in consultation with the Chesapeake Health Department to adjust the instructional model at individual schools should that become necessary, without asking the board to convene to take action on each case, because as you know, time is of the essence in those circumstances, and I would certainly need to make those decisions quickly, and it will not allow for us to have time to meet and discuss those. So at this time, I'll pause and allow the board to discuss and certainly ask any questions that they would like of me, but I would like approval with those items if the board feels that that's appropriate. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Cotton, for that detailed report. Mrs. Leary? You're muted, Miss Leary.
So sorry. Dr. Cotton and staff, I would like to thank you for the way you have come together. And I think that this new dashboard is going to be very helpful to a lot of our people who were so worried about every school, and they have right to be. So I'm glad that you've done that, and I want to thank you for that. And I know it's going to be a lot of work keeping that up. I also would like to thank you that you have taken the time to really see and listen to everyone. This is not an easy situation. I am completely in agreement with everything that you put out there. So I'm going to go ahead and just move that we accept your recommendation that we have no change in the continuum, that you will use the new dashboard, and that you will have the authority to look at individual schools and determine with the health department which ones need to be closed or which one needs to quarantine.
Thank you, Miss Leary. Does any other board member have any question or comment?
Second.
You received several seconds. I believe Mr. Boone provided the first second, and I think Mr. Murphy provided the second.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Infantino. So a motion's been made by Miss Leary, seconded by Mr. Boone and Mr. Murphy. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying, do you need saying aye or raise of hand?
Actually, I'd like to call individual names just because it's easier for us to record.
Then unmute, everybody unmute.
Mr. Boone.
Yes.
Dr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Mercer.
Yes.
Mr. Murphy.
Yes.
Mrs. New Craig.
Yes.
Mrs. Swigert.
Yes.
Mr. Woods.
Yes.
Vice Chair Leary.
Yes.
Chair Prophet.
Yes.
Motion carries with all board members voting yes.
Thank you, Dr. Infantino. With the discussion going that well and being approved at this time, does any board member have any item or anything they would like to say or share at this time? Mrs. New Craig.
Yes, thank you. I'm very pleased we're staying the course. I think that's so important for our children. I want to thank Dr. Cotton and his staff for working extra hard to make this happen. As you said, Ms. Leary, it's going to take a lot of work for staff to keep schools updated, but this is the right thing to do. Dealing with it in an individual school setting. And right now we're not making any changes. And I think that's going to be pleasing to the children as well as to the parents. And I just want to thank everybody for putting children first. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. New Craig. Any other board member? Mr. Boone, are you raising your hand, Mr. Boone?
Yeah,
Okay.
question.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Cotton. You and your staff have done an outstanding job, and to advisory board and medical experts, I want to thank you also. And I just want to stress also, we know that our students have been doing a great job following social distancing and guidelines while in school, but it's so important when they're out of school and over the holiday weekend that they follow social distance and follow all guidelines so we can stop spread the disease. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boone. Any other board member have any comment or question? Okay, I am not seeing anyone else's hands raised. Thank you, Dr. Cotton and your staff for all the hard work that you've done in providing the data that you just provided. And if I see no other, I'm just double checking, no other hands raised of the board member. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Any hand or raised of the board? Then we will call this meeting adjourned.